Hello, everybody. A warm welcome to another interview on Wisdom from North. I'm Jannike, and I'm super excited to be here with Bridget Nielsen. I've interviewed her before. She's a wonderful lady. She is a personal development mentor, an intuitive healer, and she specializes in uniting the metaphysical reality with the modern world. And through her coaching programs and everything that she does, she is helping starseeds awaken to their mission and calling and purpose in life. And speaking of calling, I actually have a free event that I'm super excited about that's coming up the 5th of October called Awaken to Your Soul's Purpose. I'd love for you to be there. We're going to dive really deep together through 4 workshops and an online community to really listen to that inner voice and start to open up to our calling and start to live in alignment with our soul. So it's totally free. You can read all about it in the link below, and I hope to see you there. Now, let's meet Bridget. Hello, Bridget. How are you doing today?
I'm doing so well. So good to see you.
It's really nice to see you again. I think it has been a couple of years since we last connected, and I've been following your channel and seeing how it just blossoms and how your work is blossoming. And you're this multi-passionate person having so many gifts to share with the world, and that is truly inspiring me. And I wanted to ask you your take on 2020, because obviously this is an intense year. A lot of teachers are saying that this is a big shift, what has happened and what is about to happen. So what is your perspective on the big happening on the planet right now? And if it's connected to, this great awakening that also have been predicted by mystics for thousands of years?
Absolutely. I mean, it's completely interconnected because we're in this time in humanity where we're all talking about the Great Awakening, and we're getting to wake up on the deepest fundamental levels, which are deeply embedded in the collective infrastructure of human psychology, right? So the framework of our belief system structure as humans has created Earth right now, and our culture and health, economy, like all the destruction going on with Earth, like all the different things. Our belief systems, our energy, our frequency has created all of that. So by the very nature of that, it's like the way that I think about it is like a cleanse. It's like all of a sudden the crap has to come up to the surface, this unconscious, foundation that we've built ourselves on that isn't working. There's a lot of things that we know that are working and are moving in that direction, definite consciousness shifts, which I think have stabilized enough so that the crap can come up and we can look at it and we can shift it. Like we're able to hold that. I think there's a lot of people that have been doing a lot of work for the past decade or more so that they can anchor that light and consciousness for everyone's things like happening, and also the new solutions, the new technologies are ripe and ready at the same time we're needing them. So I think it's this grand configuration. While at the same time, one thing that's interesting is in the Toltec tradition, which I'm pretty into, it's the transition right now from the 5th sun to the 6th sun. So it's similar to the 2012, that's the Mayan calendar, but the Toltec is somewhat similar, that we're moving into a different epoch. And the timing that they talk about in that work, in the Toltec work, is actually 2021. So it's like this transition right now where it's going from the 5th sun is all about the external world and physicality, materiality. And the 6th sun, what we're moving into, is the internal world. And so it's like everything that isn't aligned, like out there, we're realizing that we're creating it in here. So it's like, for me, I'm looking at it through that lens where everyone just went into quarantine, everyone went inside as we prepare for this new epoch, which we know that has been coming, and we've been preparing for it, for 10, 20, 30 years, right? Since the harmonic convergence in 87. So we've been transitioning, but this is like right before. We're in like the birth canal as humanity, like moving into this next stage.
And I know you're a pretty intuitive person. how do you see, do you have any vision on how this looks like? What does it really entail to move into this new time?
I mean, one, I don't know. I'm just going to say, I don't know. But I can say that I do know it's going to be better and better for each of us in our individual experiences, depending on how we respond to it. Right? So depending on how we define it, depending on how we interact with the reality, we get to choose the direction it goes. And I very much so feel the viscerality of the what can sometimes be conceptual parallel reality theory, where it's like we are completely shifting like our entire world, like, and perspective with our vibration in every moment. I'm very much so feeling that. And I'm very much so feeling like the splitting of different worlds and perspectives happening. And then also feeling the deeper responsibility that I am generating this and fully being responsible for that. And how I can continue to do my work. So that's what this has been bringing up for me, is like, how can I continue to go deeper into the latent layers of the unconscious, because they're continuing to manifest outside of me. So there's more to look at. And as I do that, that's all I can do. And I think that that's the shift, is it's like, what's going to happen out here? And how do I control this out here? And that's like what is literally crumbling in this epoch change, as well as in our reality. And it's going, no. Go in here and recreate your painting from inside. And so that's like the big message I'm personally getting.
Yeah, it's a big challenge. And I know that you've been going through some personal challenges as well. I know you had a boyfriend for actually many years, like 6 or 7 years, and you seem like really like kindred souls and soulmates. And then you publicly went out with this video and saying that you're partying, and also that you were doing a lot of retreats all around the world.
Yeah.
In these sacred sites, even in Europe, in Ireland, and then it just stopped. So how have you been dealing with it, with this year?
I've been with everyone on this. I mean, it's absolutely a collapse of everything that I've known, everything that I thought I could, everything I was excited to experience, and also everything I thought I could control. Right? So it's like, oh, this future in this relationship, or this future, with my passion, with my career, with my purpose, and helping people, and like all the different ways that I've done it, pretty much collapsed, overnight. And that was really shocking. And I did move into fear for the first week. I was like, oh my God. And then after that happened, and after I kind of rebalanced out, I was like, this is such an opportunity for me to go deeper into what is really meaningful, and an opportunity for me, because I had been working extremely hard as well, I'm like, this is an opportunity to slow down. This is an opportunity to tune in. This is an opportunity for me to heal from the relationship. Like, it's an opportunity in so many ways. And the biggest thing is to let go of control. At a time when it seems like you want to even hold on to more because crap is hitting the fan, and you're like, like this seems really unsafe. I really want to control more. And everything in my reality was like, you need to control less and just completely trust and move with this and go to a deeper level of your intuition and instinct. And so that's been the direction that I've been guided to move.
That is really beautiful and really empowering, because it's so easy to go into that victim. I mean, when life is hard. And then I think that the tools we know is like, okay, now I really need to actually apply them.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the true test.
Yeah, the universe, I think, is testing us. And even with like manifestation, if we want to manifest something and we worked so hard on ourselves, we tend to nevertheless attract this polarity still, like the opposite of actually what we want, I think, because the universe is like, are you really sure that you have stepped into the new person that you are? That can be devastating sometimes. We're like, but how am I still attracting this? And perhaps we feel I haven't grown at all, but we really have. It's just the universe, like really like, I don't like the word testing, but it's still just like making sure that we,
Yeah.
yeah. Do you agree?
Oh, totally. I absolutely feel that, because how can it really be solidified when everything's going really well? It's easy to be like, yes, of course, I'm this spiritual person and got it all figured out, you know? But then when things come up, it really tests the deeper foundation of your stance on vibrationally, you know, in everything that you believe in. And so that's what really determines it. And when it's solidified on that deep core level, and you pass that trial, if you will, then the new reality can show up and everything can go really well, which is what has been happening for me post that experience over the past months. It's like, this isn't even happening. Like, besides masks at stores, I don't even know that any of this is occurring around the world, because it's just not affecting me. Like, I'm having like really great experiences and bliss, and also going to deeper levels of myself. But it's one of those things that it can be happening. Someone next to you can be going through like an absolute hurricane tornado, and you are not. And that's what this is also revealing too. Like, what are we going to do with this material? Here's this game level like 55 that's like super intense, and we get to choose how we play it. So
Yeah, and let's speak about that parallel realities or different realities. From your perspective, is that really real, or is it more like a way that we describe being in different states of consciousness, or are we actually in different parallel kind of universes or realities, like that is actually more real than we realize?
yeah, I would say that it's extremely real, that it is what is. I think that the fixed perception of reality is conditioning. It's like what we're taught is culturally, like, you live in this world and it just is happening, and then you die and it's just this one world. And it's like, we're so much more multidimensional. And what is required to really kind of grok the idea that that even can happen is that we are creating like our lives and our reality and our world and our humanity. So it takes a deep level of responsibility, which sometimes doesn't feel that fun, to then, when you take on that responsibility as true, then you actually become a creator, and you can see it as being true, if that makes sense. But
Yeah.
if you're not wanting to be responsible for the creation, then you don't see that you're a creator. So I think that that's where sometimes it can be like, what? No, that's not true. And it's like, no, it is, but it just requires a deep level of commitment to that level of creatorship to really see it.
Yeah, and I think even that we do see, like with our eyes, different realities sometimes. An example of that is those who actually see, you know, like you perhaps see auras and see things that others are not seeing, and they're living in that world, while others are just seeing what is, in a sense. So I think we're experiencing
Yeah.
reality in a very different way, and the more we are letting go of this conditioning, the more we're seeing more of actually what's there, which is an exciting process. So
Absolutely.
how do you work with when it comes to like connecting with your spirit guides? I know you've made a couple of videos about that, and I know a lot of people, especially my members in my membership, are very eager to learn about, you know, how can I connect with my spirit guides? Um, yeah, how can we do that if we haven't done it before and we really want to connect to not just our intuition, but those, I mean, there's so many guides out there, and we have our higher selves, but those angel guides or galactic guides, like how to go about that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, I think it's a perfect continuation of what we were just saying, which is like that this reality, this materiality is like fixed. It is what is real. And that's been very indoctrinated into us since we were little kids, and we were sitting there having imaginary friends, and we were having these lucid dreams and connecting with other realms. And it's like, no, that is not real. You're crazy. You know, like all of that kind of energy that then over time whittles and wears and suppresses those feelings. So for me, one of the best ways to enter that realm of connecting with spirit guides is to connect with the vibration of inner child.
Oh.
Because the inner child had no blocks around this at all. It was so natural to that aspect of ourselves. So for me, getting into like a playful space around that and the things that we really loved, or the things that really opened us up to spirit worlds in that time, is an entry gate back to that vibration that then makes us able to perceive these other realms, and also open to our extrasensory abilities, which then have the availability to connect and to communicate in these other ways. So I think that that's a huge way.
Nice. And how do you connect with inner child? Like, I have a meditation on it, and I speak sometimes. I just did it today, like, hey, little Jannica. And she was like, hello. It's just so funny when you're really picturing her. How are you connecting to her? Is it more that like you're going into joy and fun, or are you actually imagining your 3-year-old or 5-year-old?
Yeah, there's a lot of different facets, because I've healed a lot of different aspects of my inner child. So it's kind of like a little playroom inside of my consciousness with a lot of different energies going on. But primarily it would be reconnecting to the energy of joy. If I reconnect to the energy of joy, which can be, there's fantastic like Taoist inner smile meditations, or even like, it sounds like your inner child meditation, which is like, let's just return to that energy of joy, which often is associated with kids. So it could be just a joyous experience you had in your life that it wasn't even when you were a kid. It could just be like some hilarious moment, or some like moment of like beauty and joy, that like, for me, my nephew is like a really great entry point to the energy of joy. And so then I can lock on to joy, and then I can connect into that energy, which then connects me to my inner child. So that's one way that I do it. And then the activities that I loved to do as a kid, like, so me frolicking in nature was it for me as a kid, or painting, or certain things like even dancing. So if I do those activities as well, it'll sync me back in to that vibration, certain songs. So the inner child definitely is a fantastic pathway back to everything, back to purpose, passion, back to the state in which we can connect with higher guidance. So that's one of the inroads for me.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and it really connects you, I think, to your self-love as well, and your compassion towards yourself, and that you're actually integrating more parts of yourself, feeling more whole and complete, and so much healing to it too, I think. So a lot of benefits for just connecting with that inner child that we have forgotten, I think. And I watched a video where you wrote about or talked about synchronicities and documenting them, and that's really interesting, because I've been doing that in my life, like documenting when I have like an intuitive hunch or synchronicity, because I like to notice them. Because in India, I went to this ashram in 2011, and they taught me that synchronicities becomes miracles, and I was like, okay, so I got to notice them. And you actually had that as a video, like telling you that, or I don't remember the like the whole like point of the video, but it was, I think, to get more connection, or to create more flow in your life, something like that. But I think that's brilliant. Can you talk a little bit about your take on that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's so cool that you're doing that.
Yeah.
You're on it. You're so on it. I love it. Yeah, it's essential, because there's this idea, again, this gravitas, like back to like, nothing's actually happening. Magic doesn't exist. And so we're like so conditioned to that. And so to solidify, to ground, to anchor, to create like that magic of even writing, right? Like the spell, like just writing in itself is magical, and it solidifies energies in this dimension. And to solidify magic, which is synchronicity, which is intuitive hunches, like you're saying, which is quick shifting too. Like that's the thing, the more that we let go, the quicker the shifts in our reality, which we're shifting through these realities. And to acknowledge that and be like, dang, Like 6 months ago, I would have never imagined that this is possible. And now this whole huge world change thing is happening, or this big thing in my personal life. So to acknowledge big shifts, like any of those kind of documentations, powerful lucid dreams, inspiration room guides, whatever it is, when we document it, we say this is just as real as what everyone else is saying is real, the materiality. This magic is real, and that's what it's saying. And when we acknowledge that magic is real, it begets more magic. Like then it's like, okay, now like guidance can come in, your higher self can come in, synchronicity can come in, because you're paying attention to it. It's a working communication, and the more you acknowledge it, the more that it can flow. So it leads to more. So acknowledging what is already given is essential. And this is when I was working with different people, they'd be like, yeah, like, haven't had any contact experiences, or, haven't heard from my, guide. And then it would be like, well, have you had a dream, about it, or what has happened? And they're like, well, I've had this happen or this happen. I'm like, that's significant. Acknowledge it. That is the place to start. And then from there you can build. And so it's just a really beautiful practice to solidify that, yeah, spirit it can turn into matter when we allow it to.
Yeah, I really agree. And I think it's so powerful because you're really then hacking that that conditioning and that mind that says this is nothing, because our memories, are pretty poor. Like we forget about things. At least I can only speak about for myself, but if I'm not making like a mental mark, like I got to remember this, then it's kind of stored in the sense like, remember this was big. But if it's like, and then I just move forward, it just goes like dreams, in the morning. If you don't really catch them, I'm like, what was that dream? And then I feel like I'm fishing them sometimes, like, where is it? Okay, I gotta fish it back. And okay, I got it. And then it stays, like, then I have remembered it. But if I just go, into the shower, it's gone. And I might be lucky that, I dreamt about the red shoe, but since I saw a red shoe or something.
Yes.
But yeah, and even I remember I was dating this guy some years ago, and I was really, excited to go on the date. I woke up in the morning. I was like, I'm going on the date with this guy, and I was really like positive about it. And then just a thought dropped into my mind, like, it's not him. It's not him. And I was like, no, why am I getting this? Like, this is the guy. Like, I was like so convinced. But I wrote it down like, okay, I got this. It was very clear, but then I didn't want to think about that. So, I went on the date and everything, and we ended up not, being a couple. And at that time, I knew it so early because I had the insight. But sometimes I wonder why spirit is like giving you that insight so early. Because I was like, okay, the experience is very valuable to go through, the dating, but and I often get that. I get like messages very early, like this is, and in dreams, like this is not for you, or something like that. And I'm like, okay, let me just figure that out before I, can I just have an experience before we make that decision? So, yeah. So
that's powerful. Yeah, interesting indicator system you got going on there. Yeah, and you're a fast mover, your higher self's like, let's keep going. Let's keep don't get sidetracked over there. Just keep going. So
yeah. And speaking of that intuition, you have some tips on how we can listen to our intuition. And obviously that's actually, and I think it was so brilliant what you said in that video, like it's not easy. I mean, because we have been programmed all our lives. So obviously it's not, we all have an intuition, but it's not super easy. So what are your tips on like how to really listen?
Yes. Tips on listening would be, there's a lot of different associations, right? Listen to your gut instinct, follow your heart. Like there's some of those things associated with intuition and tuning into yourself that are already like almost like folk myth forever, because it's such a way that works. And I think one of the things is that we don't listen to our bodies very much in our world. Like it's like, gotta keep going, push it, or whatever the energy is. And we kind of suppress our body's intelligence because it is such an incredible communicator, because it's telling us maybe ahead of time what we don't want to hear yet. You know, it's like, no more of that sugar. And it's like, shh, I don't want to hear that. Or like, I want, you know, whatever it is. And so I think that that's one of the reasons that actually people suppress and push down their specific body's intelligence. And we think of the body, I think, in the spiritual world as being this like carnal, like physical, you know, like 3D material thing, but it's not. Like, this is like an incredible primal energy system. Like, it's the technology right here, the communication right here is just so potent. So there's of course a lot of intuition that's like coming from out here with your like different clair senses that can happen, absolutely. And I think it's just even more easy and more simple than we sometimes want it to be. And so it can be one of those things where it's like listening to your gut. Like, how do you feel when someone is requesting something, or you're engaging with someone, or you need to do this thing? Like, how does that actually make you feel in your actual body? Like, does that pull at your solar plexus? Do you kind of get like a queasy stomach? Does it totally ignite your heart? You know, and I think that there's different parts of our bodies that communicate in different ways. And so when it's like, well, follow your heart, it's like the most important thing. There's so many different, it's like a team. There's a team of communication that is telling you different nuances to different things. And the more that we start to listen, the more we can get like it's like a council. We can get the different perspectives of how then to move forward with that particular thing, or what that actually means to us in our own particular way. So the language of what our body's communicating is, I think, one of the most overlooked ways in which intuition comes through. Definitely the different like psychic senses and dream time and all those different pieces, but I think that I wanted to just emphasize the body because it is so potent.
Yeah, I've also the latest years discovered much more of my body intelligence, and just grown this immense respect for my body, and how grateful I am for it. Like, going from all the complexes and stuff when you're young, it has been really a journey of just all of a sudden just loving my body, and how it's just there for me all the time and giving me signals. And I have this story about my father. I thought it was so interesting because I believe that our intuition speaks to us very individually in different ways. Like, for me, apparently I get some intuitives like knowing sometimes, and you got to notice it.
Yes.
Yeah. And my father, he is a very practical, like rational, not spiritual man in a sense. He's spiritual, but you know, is very like intellectual. So I think if he had received a thought like that, he wouldn't listen. And in France, he was driving a bit fast. I think not super fast, but okay fast. I don't know the details, but he was driving, and then he was going to drive around the corner, and all of a sudden he got these cramps in his stomach, like, oh, so super cramps, and he slowed down, obviously. And then around the corner, there came this car, like, like super fast. And he was just, you know, managing to pull off. Oh, I get like so touched when I talk about it. And he just told me about, you know, I had this time where I think I got some help. And I was like, you totally got help from angels. And he was like, yeah, we would have crashed if I didn't get that stomach pain. And I was like, so what happened to the stomach pain after that car had, you know, crossed or drove away? He was like, oh, it just disappeared like that. And
That's incredible.
I never forget that story. So I feel he got help. The angels were helping him in the way he would listen. Like,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
Powerful.
Exactly. Oh man, I'm so happy for him. That's so beautiful. Yeah, that's one of those chill experiences for sure.
I know. And he's so rational. He's like, yeah, it might have been something. It was kind of weird. And I was like, that was angel help.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm. So, how do you work with crystals? I know that you're really into crystals, and actually I haven't interviewed so many people about it and spoken so much about it myself. I don't know much about crystals, but I think it feels like you're pretty passionate about it.
I am passionate about it. Yes. It's been kind of, I'm mostly connected to the plant kingdom and the mineral kingdom. Like there's certain kingdoms that I think people have more of a proclivity towards, you know, like some people are animal people and they're just like so good with animals. I'm not one of those people, but with minerals, I definitely have certain communications. And one of the things that I think, well, a lot of people love crystals. So people are knowing that they're at least beautiful and really excited about them. And one of the things that I think often gets missed again on this like materiality level, I like have to hold one while we're
Yeah.
talking. My little buddy.
Oh, you little
um,
boy.
but yeah, my little buddy. One of the things that happens is it's like, oh, it's just like a rock, you know. And I think my real deep reconnection with the stone and crystal kingdom came when I was in the Celtic Isles and working so much with the stone circles and the ancient like stone structures and all the pyramid sites and such. As like, wow, there's such absolute transmission held in them. And I mean, crystals literally hold information. Like that's what they do in our computers. We literally use quartz crystal as storage devices on our computer. They store information. There's nothing better that can do it. And so in those sites, you know, I could feel the transmissions from these other times and what was stored in the purposes of these stones. And so it really connected me with that frequency. And now engaging with my own, say, personal crystals, it's amazing as well that they are what Rudolf Steiner said, the sense organs. So it's how higher spiritual beings actually perceive our reality, is like through, it's like one of their organs of perception, like clairvoyance or something. Like it's how the higher spiritual beings can actually perceive. And so for me, that was like so profound because depending on the stone, depending on the crystal, like you can connect, like we're talking about spirit guides, you can connect with different beings and each of them is so different, like the actual elemental beings, the different personality of the stone itself, and then the different spiritual beings that connect in through the crystal too. It's like, what? This is amazing, like very, very unique and different. And so it's been really fun for me to connect in with them in that way. And kind of understand these different purposes of what they can do, and also realizing that they are conscious beings and they require support. So a lot of people like have crystals all over their healing rooms and stuff like that, but they need to be constantly taken care of like a plant, like where they're cleared and cleansed, because they take in information. And then if they're too full, then they can actually start expelling detrimental energies. So it's not like one of those things where it's like, it's a crystal, it's good energy. It's like, well, yeah, and when it's at its, you know, core vibration, but we need to continue to realize that it's out of the earth now. Like these were in the earth and that would balance them. Now they're in the human energy fields. Now they're in like collective energy fields. And so they pick up on stuff. And so they need to be cared for and released so that they can continue to serve their purpose and radiate their beneficial energies to us.
That makes sense. I get curious just to understand what you mean. Do you mean that, because I do think rocks and everything has its own consciousness, but I think it has another level of consciousness, so to say, like the material raw channel material are talking about the first density that is. Yeah, I think that rocks is a part of the first density, and it's another level of consciousness. But do you mean that the crystals have a higher level of consciousness? It's actually in a sense, not a being, it's probably wrong, but it's a consciousness. But is it more of a communicator in the sense that the angels communicate through them, or inner earth?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep, exactly. So the stone itself might not have like a crazy sixth density consciousness or something like that. It just like starts levitating. I don't know. But it has the availability to hold really, 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 really high information. and communicate and be a conduit for really, really, really powerful information and vibration. And it has the structure to be able to emanate that. So I think that distinction, does that help?
Right.
Yeah.
Do you feel that it has helped healing you in your life, or have you used it for healing? And does it actually help healing bodily, like ailments and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, I've had a lot of different experiences. I'm like, okay, which one do I pull? I was doing, like, I guess this was maybe like a decade ago. I was doing Reiki work with this woman, but she would lay crystals on me. And it was the first time that I would lay down with crystals on me. And I know it was the combination of her Reiki, but the crystals were a significant part. And legitimately, I was having crazy experiences where I was recalling different death scenarios that I had in other incarnations and replaying in my physical body these death scenarios and like releasing that from my body. And it was crazy, like so visceral. It's like the knife in the back, and I'm like, ah, like I could feel it. It was so big. So I feel like their consciousness has the availability definitely to heal, to bring energies up to the surface, definitely to protect, definitely to uplift. So I think that they're really important tools as long as we use them. I think just like right now, you know, the crystal industry is just out of control, like billion-dollar industry. Everyone just buys them because they're pretty. They heat them, they treat them, they do all this stuff to them, which makes them actually not able to do what they're here to do. It damages them doing those kinds of things to them. And then people just like put them in their house, and then they're like, oh, it's just doing something. And I think the conscious engagement with them is really essential if you're going to like you have to be a caretaker of them. And I think that that's the only availability that is integrous to be working with them, because otherwise why in the heck are we unearthing them just to like have something pretty in our room? That's not right, you know. So I think it's this relationship and this caretaking, and when you have this level of relationship, then the crystals are extra engaged to assist as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's important to have an intention with it, because we are so powerful ourselves, and not giving attention to it is actually a sign to the crystal as well. Yeah, so the power of our minds, if we put, you know, attention on it and have an intention, I want help with this or whatever it is, I think that will strengthen. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm curious, what kind of beings are you working with? I know you've been working with inner beings and galactic beings. Who are you working with now, if you want to share?
It's a good question. It's a good question. I'm working with the extraterrestrial consciousness is definitely coming back around. Like there was like a shift where I was working with different kinds of beings, but the extraterrestrial piece is definitely coming back around, which is amazing. So different star beings and the hybrid races are coming back into my consciousness for sure. With this next
reason for that, because of 2020 and everything.
Yeah, I think the 2020 piece, and I think the level of release and the level of personal work and the level of 1,000% dedication I have towards a positive future path for humanity. I'm just like extremely committed to that. Like that's what 2020 has brought me, where it's like, that's it. Like I'm just super dedicated to that. And I think that dedication, has brought that energy back around. And then also I've been doing quite a bit of work with Celtic energy. So I've been working with the Celtic gods. So I've been working more with that energy, which is pretty interesting. And I was talking to one of my friends about it, and we were like, well, what's the distinction between these gods and like, you know, spirit guides and like all the other facets of beings, right? And I liked what she said, which was, the gods are like spirit guides from another time. And they're also humans that actually did ascend to that like level. So there would be, I guess you could call them ascended masters in a sense. And they're also these beings from a different epoch. So if we're talking about, we're moving from this certain level of consciousness, this certain theme of humanity right now to another one here next year, it's like they're from a different time that they've experienced their own evolution, and so they can assist on those levels. So I've been starting to work with them, and that's pretty interesting and very different because their energy is very it's not like a little whisper of a ringing in your ear is your spirit guide. It's very much so like, they're there. Like, it's like, holy cow, like this is a lot of energy and it's not subtle, so it's been interesting to kind of play in these new realms with that energy.
Interesting. And I think the last time we spoke, it was many years ago, we spoke a little bit about abductions and things like that. I feel like that has slowed down. I don't know if that's my reality right now, that I'm not like looking into it so much, or if it has actually ended and slowed down. What is your take on that?
Yep, definitely. Yeah. The abductions, supposedly and technically like started slowing down like in the early 2000s. As far as like the Greys abducting people, like that happening. But there's opportunity always for different levels of higher spiritual beings that are positive on the middle path to be in contact with you, to assist you, to take you to that next level. It's literally your own resistance that's not making that available. And so contact with other beings, which could be, you could think of abduction or like upgrades in some sense with these higher spiritual beings assisting, is always available. And so that's happening, but in the way that, it was back then, that could be perceived as more negative or had a certain agenda or energy to it, that has more so completed.
Okay, I'm having a free event coming up called Awaken to Your Soul's Purpose. And I know also you're passionate about helping starseeds awaken to their mission and purpose.
Yeah.
Do you feel like we all have a purpose? And do you have any like tips like on the spot here on one first step we can take towards finding our mission or our purpose in life?
Yeah, 1,000%. I mean, it's one of those things that I feel like 2020 is the catalyst if people haven't felt like there's a greater meaning, or that there is space where their service could be used for the better good, that will catalyze more than this. And it's like, it's realizing that you did come here for a reason, first of all, which again kind of comes back to the self-responsibility, like that there is, which responsibility is good. It's like this richness, it's this fire, it's this passion that makes us go to the next like stage of why we're here. And it was so funny because my mom ran into someone at where she works the other day, and the lady was just like very, very off. And it's kind of, I don't know if it's like vulgar or mean, but she was like, why are you even here? Like, what are you even doing on earth? Like, and it made me laugh, but it also was poignant in the way that it's like, we made it here. Like, somehow, like, of all the souls, being born to earth right now at this time, like, you're here, and it's not just to like go to the store and eat some ice cream and watch Netflix. Like, that's not it, and it's like kind of, it's this, and I feel like 2020 is this crucible moment to reinvigorate the passion. So that's why I'm talking about kind of the lead in of like how to discover the purpose, is that there needs to be a fire lit for then the passion to be fueled, and for the purpose to be fueled. So it's like that passion, that fire, that there's something more that I'm here to do, that there's something more to this life. I think that is a really important energy and prerequisite to then being like, okay, now that there's the passion, now that there's the energy to fuel, what is the purpose? So I think reigniting passion and then directing it to purpose. And as far as discovering what is your purpose, there's a nice combination of things. It's like the combination of what you love to do, what you're good at, and what other people need, right? And it's this combination that flows effortlessly between all of them, where exactly what you have is what someone else needs, and it's something that lights you up. And I like then going again back to inner child, which we came in with the template of what that looked like, how that expression folds for us, which it can move in different directions. Like you said, what did you say, multi-passionate or something?
Yeah.
Like it can move in different directions. Like I paint, I do this healing, I do healing work, I take people on physical retreats to sacred sites. Those are all seemingly opposite, but there's an umbrella passion of being of service and like assisting people in their vibration. And so it's going back to that moment when you're a kid and it's like, what did you love, to do? And that can then lead into how your particular expression then can be of assistance. So those are some of the inroads that I like to start to clarify what purpose is, and to realize that there are certain gifts and talents and ways of being that you have that are so innate to you that you don't even know that they're happening. So another way is that I like to ask other people like around me, like close friends and family, like at which they've never been, given the opportunity to be invited to respond of, what are my gifts? What are my talents? And all of them can tell you right away. They're like, yeah, well, this has been obvious forever, and it's something that may be so innate to you that you don't even know that it's something that you have that could be of service, and it's so natural that it's effortless. And so then it's fun. So I think it's fine tuning all of those different pieces and clarifying it, and then definitely taking action towards that.
Beautiful. And that's really inspiring, because a lot of the same things I'm going to speak about in my events.
Yay! That's great.
Yeah, going back to childhood and being of service and all these things. And it's one of my favorite topics to speak about. I'm so passionate about it because my life has been all about finding my purpose. And I thought I did find it being an actress and losing my voice. But now I see why I did lose my voice, to find my voice. It's just such a brilliant mastery of a plan, I think. But I think I'm still, I think we have many purposes sometimes, and we can find it can expand all the time. And yeah, it's an interesting topic. So guys, if you want to be part of it, just look at the link below, and I'd love to see you there. Now, Bridget, what are you working on now? Like, do you have any new projects going on, or?
Yeah, I've got well, one thing that I'm really excited about this fall, usually connected with Halloween, is my work with the ancestors. So I do a lot of work with inherited like family trauma, and then also like honoring of the ancestors. So I usually do that in the fall. And the reason why it's so significant is a lot of what we've been talking about is this certain like level of conditioning, right? Or certain like blocks we have, or certain things. And it's so, again, intertwined and tangled like with what you think you are, that you think that it's yours, and it's actually not. And there could be a vast percentage of challenges that come up for people that are actually they're not yours at all, and they're coming from somewhere in your lineage, and they're passed down. So just like something like it's breast cancer is passed down in families. That's like, oh yeah, that's, things are passed down in families. Also different other patterns are passed down as well. And so I'm really passionate about it because it's freed me up, because for me, I didn't have a voice either. I was petrified of public speaking. I could not speak my truth at all. Like there were so many levels of my voice, of my womb, that were really shut down from my ancestors. It was passed down like in my genetics and the energetic field. And as I've done this work, obviously I can talk now.
Obviously, yeah. No doubt. That's a
here. Right. And so a lot of these like challenges that I've had have just like melted away doing this work. And so then obviously I'm like, hey, I think this could be helpful for other people too. So yeah, I'm opening that course that I'm going to do live, like open up for this fall, which will be really exciting and fun, especially during this time of the thinning of the veil. So that's one of the big things I have. I'm continuing to do retreats, continuing to do art, continuing to work with plants and nature, and just like more and more passion, not even necessarily it's for myself, but obviously other things that I want to do to be of assistance as well. So.
Beautiful. And I'll put your email, or not your email, but your web address, so everybody, I assume, can find everything about it, that there, the retreats and everything.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much, Bridget. This was such an inspiration to speak with you again. Thank you for all your beautiful work and everything you're doing. Such an inspiration. Please keep doing those videos on YouTube. I follow them.
Oh,
Inspirational. Yeah.
thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you for everything you're doing. It's just been so beautiful to see you blossom like those flowers behind you. Like every year, like it's just like, oh yeah, thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you for that. And thank you for watching, everybody. Much light from the US and Norway. Bye bye.